Namo and good morning. Thank you for joining me for a daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. We're reading a book by the nuns of Amaravati called The Body, Dhamma Reflections on Aging, Illness, and Death. And we're now reading a Dhamma talk by Ajahn Metta called The Gradual Path. The Buddha pointed out that there are 3 steps for each noble truth. The first step is understanding each truth on a theoretical level. There is suffering. There is a cause, craving. There is a cessation of suffering. There is the way out of suffering. However, this theoretical understanding doesn't lead us to liberation. So the second step requires us to practice with each truth. Suffering needs to be understood. The cause needs to be abandoned. Cessation needs to be realized. The path needs to be developed. The third and final step is the fruit of the practice. Here, the tasks have been completed, so we can say, suffering has been understood. The cause has been abandoned. Cessation has been realized, and the path has been developed. So when we look at the first noble truth, the first step is the reflection on suffering. What actually is suffering? The second step involves directly experiencing, turning towards it. The third is fully understanding it. That means really going into it, opening up to it, being with it, turning towards it. Reflecting on this truth, we need to see what suffering means. The Buddha used the term dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, for this, or to put it more broadly, something that is hard to be with. You can see 3 aspects of this. One involves physical and emotional pain. Another involves the pain that impermanence brings into our lives. With change comes uncertainty, and we don't know what will come next. The third aspect of dukkha is much more subtle. It is a suffering that comes through subtle anticipations and fears. You may find yourself in situations where everything is going well, but you find yourself asking the question, how long will it be like this? What next? What happens when this ends? This is the anticipation of change and the fear of stepping into the unknown. It is a kind of suffering which is not very obvious. It underlies the experience of this moment. It lingers in the background, but it is there. When we notice this subtle feeling, tone, there in the background, we turn towards it, open up to it, hold it in awareness, and allow it to become a clear experience in our mind. The Buddha pointed out that we can't just skip over this kind of direct experiencing. We have to dare to really go into it. This means that when we feel hurt or we feel emotional pain, perhaps because somebody has said something to us that we find difficult to take, we don't say, okay, I'll just endure it blindly however long it lasts, and then I'll turn to something else. Or, let me find something else to distract myself from this unpleasant experience. Instead, we turn our attention fully towards the physical experience. Where does the tension manifest? Where do we experience the physical sensation of the pain? How does it manifest in the body? Where is the resonance? For example, if we feel hurt, we might experience this as tension, as if there isn't enough space around the heart. Or we may feel a resonance in the body, like the hair standing slightly on end. We may want to create more space around ourselves, space as a form of protection. When we experience suffering, how can we turn fully towards it, fully embrace it? Can we make space internally to be with it? Can we relate to the suffering? Can we open up to it and hold it without passing from there into the patterns of reaction or denial? I think we all probably know these two patterns. One way of relating to suffering is not really acknowledging it as suffering. I know this very well. I can find myself saying, it doesn't really bother me. I don't need to listen to that. Just put it aside. But actually, this is not the way out. I can do it for a while, and then it keeps building and building until suddenly something small happens, and I find myself overreacting. Take, for example, a situation with people at work where you might have difficulty relating to a colleague. Maybe you aren't able to address this problem with them, so you have to hold it inside. But if you deny it, if you don't see it for what it is, the energy will keep on building. It might lead to a much bigger problem if you don't address it early enough. It's almost as if everything you have experienced so far has gone into this one situation, which is, of course, completely irrational. I've experienced situations like this in my own life. The step here, the second step of realizing this truth, means turning towards it, fully acknowledging and feeling it. It's the felt sense, rather than not just something that I'm thinking about. I feel it in the body or in the heart. There it is, present at this moment. I experience it now. I feel it now. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.